Top of the morning, everybody. We're looking for Dr. Bhrett McCabe. Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Doc, no viewers. We have no viewers. Who is going to be the first person? Jeff. First person in the gate. Pete Roach. How you doing, Pete? Dr. Bhrett McCabe. There he is. We're going to add him. Morning, everybody. Doc's connecting. He's getting there he is. Oh, we had to have that little Tiger LSU behind him there. I'm
gotta be behind me.
Morning, Doc. How's it going?
Man, I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing okay. It's a new world. It's a new challenge every day.
Absolutely. You know, it's I think it's a time where, I think if you would ask all of us 2 months ago, God, how would you like to be sequestered to your house for 2 weeks? You'd say, oh my God, it'd be great. I could get so much done. I could clean out closets. I could get some rest. I could watch some, Netflix shows. And now we're at the point of like, okay, what are we going to do here? Where are we going? But I think there's so much emotion associated with this. There's so much fear and the apprehension. But, and one thing I want our listeners to know as we're doing this is, look, we're gonna push through this. There's gonna be some pain. Coronavirus is a nasty little thing, but I think this morning I saw some of the news reports. Some of the models are reforming. There's some positivity coming out of it, and I knew this was going to start pretty soon because my buddies who are physicians will tell you the treatments. Yale School of Medicine is using hydroxychloroquine as the primary agent for pre-ICU and mild cases, and then in ICU. Look. This is what we do in this world. We're innovative people. We find solutions, and we get to the core of the issue. And what I want people to realize is, let's take the bigger lesson out of this, which was this time has forced us to look inward at ourselves, get connected back to the simplicities that we have in our life, and go and not take things for granted. And if we can do that, remember, if there's golf coaches that are on here, it's like, why did we all get into coaching? It wasn't for the sex appeal, and it wasn't for the goodies. It was for making a difference in the people's lives and solving the questions we have inside of ourselves about how to do things better. It was, using this time to spend more time with our families. It was seeing the joy on people's faces when they solve an issue. If we can get back to that, listen, I'm not going to say it was worth it, but we're going to find the silver lining in this.
Yeah. And one thing, I'm 50 years old, and I've been around long enough to learn that I don't like adversity, but when I pass through it, I always look back at it and go, I get it now. I understand it, and I see what role that played in moving me down the tracks. I must say, my own career is built on blocks of adversity.
100%.
And just where I've gotten in my life has largely come as a product of bad stuff.
Well, Ryan Holiday wrote in The Obstacle is the Way, and he's not the first, but he's maybe one of the most eloquent writers that we've had and philosophers, which is regard of, we oftentimes put up red lights, fear, worry, apprehension about seeing an obstacle when really, I don't think we as people worry about failing. I think we worry about the moment we realize we failed. That psychological moment of like, oh my God, that just happened. But then once the instantaneous part is over, we go, now what? And I keep right now, and I know I talked about it at coaches camp, but right now I keep pulling back to two books that have been so influential in my life. One is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Yes.
And for our listeners, Viktor was a psychiatrist and a neurologist that was imprisoned in Auschwitz during World War II in Nazi Germany. And look, the coronavirus is awful. I don't think there's been. I can't say. I learned a long time ago, never make an unequivocal statement. Top 5 greatest human rights violations ever. Okay, concentration camps. I just can't imagine, the atrocities. I know in certain parts of this world we're still having some genocides and stuff, but That was horrendous, okay? And Viktor Frankl realized that when people were in the prison, and he was a prisoner, that people's bodies were being pushed to the limits. They were being starved. They were having tests done on them. It was just heinous conditions. But if their minds would stay engaged, they could survive as long as their body would allow them. But as soon as they lost their mental awareness, and he was like, it's not a mental weakness thing. It was a fact of once they lost the purpose. And so what he quickly realized, so they would die. You'd see them just turn like within 24 hours, and they lose their will. And one of the things I think was so powerful about that book was he said, we have to learn, it doesn't matter what's going on in our life. We always hold true to the one choice that we have. And that's how we can respond to the next challenge. All right. Nobody can ever take that freedom away from us, how we can see things. And so he learned that once you understand the purpose behind your suffering, you take control. I'm like everybody else. I've seen a dramatic decrease in my revenue. Okay. I lost 2/3 of my business during this time. Now, I'm not trying to go into personal stuff. I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. We're okay. I mean, we planned for, ups and downs, but my business is done in thirds, and I'm not out on the PGA Tour, and I'm not working with my colleges right now. Now, they'll come back, and I'm still providing services for each of those, but I'm not on the traditional way of doing business. And the brilliance and this challenge of this was when I sat there and was like, okay, I was fortunate enough to make some changes in my business about 4 months ago that decreased some of my overhead in a very flush time, because I just didn't enjoy I won't say the liability, but maybe the exposure. And it's forced me, or not forced me, it's afforded me the opportunity to do this again, which is, I'm a clinician by training. I'm a clinical psychologist where I specialized in the interplay between the medical and psychological conditions that we all struggle with. And here we are in the greatest exposure of that to help people cope and manage. And when I was sitting at the Players Championship on that Thursday night, when my client, Billy, had texted me and said, look, hey, it's canceled, catch an early flight out. And I said, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you soon. We thought we'd be gone for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But I sat there and I said, I'm gonna return to me on this time. I want to return to my writing. I want to return to my value. I want to return to the things that I felt like I've been so stretched from. It's not really true, but that was my mental perception, right? And I want to get more disciplined on the things that I'm doing. I want to move more and exercise more, but I wasn't looking to get a flat belly. I mean, that ain't going to happen. So I wanted to just do some little things, and it was about writing. And I sat there on that Thursday night, and I was like, don't write to anybody. Write to yourself during this time. And I've absolutely had a therapeutic response. And what's happened is I've gotten more calls, more, I don't say business, but I've made some deeper connections with people that are doing things like this, where I feel like I got a DM the other day of a guy who was like, listen, I know you're talking about the golf world, but I just buried my daughter, and your words provided so much solace in what I'm going through. And from not coronavirus, it was just an accident. And that was the time. I want everybody to do that. Like, if you're a golf coach, this is a great time to reach out to your students and send them a questionnaire. Create a questionnaire and say, what do you like? What don't you like? What things do you want to do when we get back? Where do you want to travel in the world? If you were to do a golf trip and have the funds, where would you like? This is a great time to learn and be interested. And call your students and get on the phone for 20 or 30 minutes and just expand that. Because the other book that I loved it was a base off of that Viktor Frankl book. It was called The Choice by Edith Eger. And she was also in Auschwitz at 16. And the day that she was brought in with her mother and her sister, and Dr. Mengele, the brutal villain doctor, looked at the mother and said, mother or sister? And she said, mother. And they separated them, and she never saw her mother again. And so she's lived with that choice. And Edith is now a psychologist in El Paso, Texas. She's in her 80s, but she was actually mentored by Viktor Frankl because they had a common bond. But her whole thing is the choices that we make, instead of villainizing ourselves and realizing that it does come with struggle, how about we look at it differently and say, okay, what did I learn? What do I want to, how do I need to do things? And that's what I really want people to understand right now is that there's some times and choices. Look, this is the first time in our life that I can literally say, minus a runaway tire or somebody running through a red light and crushing us, we're a victim in this. I mean,
Yeah.
we are a victim, but we're not powerless. Is there going to be pain? Absolutely. Are we going to have some financial problems? Absolutely. Are we going to have support there? Yes. Do we have to deal with the government getting the checks to us? Yes. You know, but this is also a time, Andrew, I mean, listen, there are people out there, if you're in the United States, turn off the damn media. There's one industry that's thriving right now besides grocery stores, and that's the news media. They are playing with our minds right now better than anything I've ever seen. Get off of it. And, you know, they're not our friend. They're not our advocate. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. They're all benefiting, and they're destroying us psychologically.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. Just in the emails, you know, obviously I had all my golf schools booked out. And in the emails that Terry's been sending to people, we send the same email. We, you know, if someone wants their money back, their deposit back, they get their deposit back. But it's amazing how cranky and rude people are. And I know they're not normally that way, but they are that way at these times simply because of how they're feeling.
Yeah. And no, Blair, this is not a Donald Trump interview. I'm not saying that we don't need to be fearful of what's going on. What I'm saying is nobody has our best interest besides ourselves. And I think everybody should be social distancing. I think everybody should be out there taking care of their business. I think we should be taking care of our elderly right now and reaching out to them. This is a scary time. And this is about personal responsibility during this time. And I agree with you. There are people who are cranky and worried. There's a lot of worry and apprehension in our world. You know, when you're worried about your family members, I've got a mother and a stepdad who's sick. My mom is healthy. I'm worried about them. I said, do not leave your house. Get your food delivered and sanitize it. You know, we sanitize our groceries when we're coming in. Okay. So I'm saying this as not as a one side or the other. I'm looking at this from a humanity standpoint. Yeah. 100% Blair. It's called being informed. CDC website, the World Health Organization website. I want us to be more informed as a public than being lemmings. And I think that's in the golf industry too. Listen, I think the brilliance out of this is that people are going to start consuming information more.
Yeah.
I think you're right though. I think people are, sorry, I'm getting text. I just saw that the Open has been canceled. So my players are texting me. I'm glad I canceled my flight.
I'm going to say this, Doc. If I was a PGA Tour player, I would not cancel my service with you. Because I'm telling you, I would need you now more than ever.
Well, this is the time. What I've done is, well, nobody's canceling me, thankfully. Not yet. They haven't fired me yet. I'm sure it's coming. But
you're just not going on the road.
Well, I'm not going on the road right now. And, you know, I looked at my Delta. You know, I can pretty much hit my diamond status midway through the year. And I don't have a flight booked until late August.
Yeah.
You know, now I've got like $5,000 of credit sitting there to use. And I'm thinking, but I think all of us, this is a brilliant time for us to take a deep breath and look at it in a couple areas. One is, what do we want to accomplish right now as people? Okay. What do we want to be 18 months from now? Okay. That is, I'm not talking result. I'm talking impact. Like one of the things that I loved about coming to you and doing your coaches camp was the impact that people felt when they left there. Okay. It was very educational, but it was also very community focused. Sorry, I don't have one of those fancy things that holds up my phone. And I love that because the community was about growth and learning and sharing ideas. It wasn't about gotcha moments, and it wasn't, you know, it was, I think that's brilliant. And so I think, what do we want to be? Who do we want to learn from? This is a great time right now. If you're wanting to learn, like I just literally sent a message to my daughter. She loves the Broadway show Hamilton. And I saw this brilliant video of this that John Krasinski and Emily Blunt coordinated with Lin-Manuel Miranda to send a little girl all the original people singing live to her on Zoom. Okay, this is a time right now where everybody's sitting looking at their phone, and we're seeing the authenticity and the vulnerability of people. So where do you want to be in 18 months? What's the impact you want to create? I love that.
Yeah.
Second thing, how do you want the people that you coach to, how do you want them to see you? Okay, so not only what are you feeling inside you, but what do you want to project out? Listen, I know, just like everybody else, there are times that I show up in the office or I show up on the road and I'm like, okay, just survive the day. But what am I doing as a disservice to my people when I don't see the value? Like, I can't wait to be back out on tour. I can't wait to walk out to a sporting event. I can't wait to see a client face to face in my office again. Like, I can't wait for that.
Simple stuff.
I can't wait to go to dinner. Look, I can't wait to go to even a Cracker Barrel right now and eat in a restaurant. Okay? It doesn't have to be a 5-star steakhouse. I want to get back to the joy of why we love our interactions with our folks. And then I think the other thing too is, so if we know what you want to be, what do you want to project? And then, the last question is, what do you want to make the impact on the people that you're seeing? What are they going to remember in you when they leave? Great teachers, I mean, if we use Butch Harmon as an example, I'll hear people in the industry, in the golf industry, well, I mean, listen, I know what he makes people feel like when they leave. His students feel 50 feet tall. Okay? What do you want people to remember you by when they leave you? Do you want to say, well, I gave them some great technical information, or, hey, I went out and played with some of my members? Or if you're not a golf coach and you're on this, anything in your life, if they leave your butcher shop, what do you want them to remember from you? Because we have competition in this world. But when people know how you make them feel, that costs zero. That has no bias from anybody's agendas. That takes nothing. This morning I walked over, my office is in a shopping center, and right next door is a gas station. And as I'm walking in, the guy is sanitizing the handles. And I walked in, I said, how you doing? He goes, crazy times. I said, I know. I said, how are you doing though? He said, yeah, I'm doing good. He said, my wife's doing, I'd never seen this guy before. And as I was walking in, I started thinking, how many times do we walk by people and not pay attention to them because we're busy? Or like, this should show us now that we are all equal in this world. This virus is an equal opportunity offender.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything. Okay. And I mean, it doesn't care how, anything. Yeah. So why don't we just learn to be more human to each other and learn to share ideas and love one another? And I don't have to like somebody, but I can wish them the best. And, I think trying to clear those text messages, sorry. And so, I think maybe if we can all just look at those three things right now, we could be really, really successful.
I'm with you. It's, I try to look at it from this perspective. What can I do to help people? What can I do to elevate? I know this. I'm bored. I need distraction, and so I'm doing these things. And I thought, this is a cool way to get some good education out to both golfers and golf coaches, inspire them, motivate them. Certainly with your great inspiration, Doc, and see if we can make a contribution.
You know what? You're right, and I think this has been a great time. I mean, listen, I've watched Tiger Kings. If you haven't watched it, you should feel better about yourself after you do. And look at your family and go, okay, I'm not as worried and screwed up as I think I am. One of the jokes as a psychologist is when people come and sit with you, they go, man, I'm embarrassed to tell you this. You probably never heard this before. And we always say, try me. There's only been 1 or 2 times I've ever been shocked. For the most part, they train you to not blush. They train you to, because, I mean, even though it's a physiological response, if you start realizing that, they kind of, when you're in training, it's kind of like, they bombard you with stuff so you can't get, trust me, y'all. I've heard it all. I've been around it all. Okay. So, but why do we do what we do, right? Why are we do it because we're truly, we may, have a desire to play golf or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's because we're finding a way to connect with other people, to do the things that we want to do. You're using this time to connect to people and to bring your group into a wider audience. Okay, exposing your students, like, Jonathan here, who felt so deeply personal. Well, he's having an opportunity to connect with, me, maybe me. I mean, I don't know why that would be a great thing, but Jonathan, okay, thank you. But, today and getting to see, Double G later today and Scott Fawcett, you're exposing people, which I think that sometimes we get so siloed in this world that we forget to do that. And, I think as coaches and as people, we have to understand what people want. There's an old story that reminds me, I went to a Grand Rounds one time, and it was so brilliant, and it was a lesson that I learned from a coach the hard way. So I'll start off with this. I was seeing a client, and this patient came in and saw me when I was doing clinical work, and she had the most classic case of obsessive compulsive disorder. Not, hey, I'm a perfectionist. No, I'm talking like washing her hands 75 times a day with bleach. Now we probably look at that and go, pretty adaptive, pretty healthy, right? But back then it wasn't, and there were some problems, and there were some other things there. And I was so excited because you never really see that in clinical practice. Not that crisp, okay? And I come back in and I meet with her after I downloaded it to my advisor, and I said, this is what we're going to do, okay? And she never came back after I laid out what we were going to do. And I went back to my advisor, who's just probably one of the most brilliant psychologists I've ever been around. And he said, yeah, you scared her. So what do you mean? He said, why did she come see you? I said, well, she was having a hard time sleeping, and she was having some problems at work, so she was depressed. He said, so you tried to treat her obsessive compulsive disorder? That's not what she wanted. She's had it for 35 years. It's part of her life.
Yeah.
She came to see you because she was having a problem in her life. It had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
And I went to this Grand Rounds, and the psychiatrist was telling the story about working in inner city psychiatric hospitals in New York City. And a patient comes in, and the young resident comes in, and he's just fuming mad after he meets with the patient. Patient's psychotic, paranoid, thinks the FBI's bugging his apartment and stuff. And so the psychiatrist resident walks in and goes, well, have you been taking your medicine? And the guy's like, my medicine? Are you kidding me? That medicine is given by the FBI, and blah, 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 blah. And they had to sedate him because the guy went nuts. Okay, he lost his mind in the treatment center. The psychiatrist resident comes in and is like, God, this guy, if he just take his medicine. So the older psychiatrist sits down with him and says, so talk to me about what you asked him. And he goes in and he says, well, I mean, he comes in and he's demonstrating clear paranoid schizophrenia. We know he's a frequent flyer. He comes in a lot. And he said, so what was the first question you asked him? He said, I asked him, did you take your medicine? And the professor sits back and says, hey, did you get your oil change yesterday? The guy's like, what are you talking about? No, why would I get my oil change? He goes, the equivalence of you asking if he's taking his medicine is the equivalence of me asking if you got your oil changed. Why didn't you ask him? Oh my God, you know what? The FBI bugging my apartment would be so terrifying. I bet you're not sleeping at all, are you? How about if I gave you something to help you sleep? And I think as coaches and as people, sometimes we forget why people come see us. It's the one thing that they really want help with. Like, if I went to a golf instructor, I don't want a golf instructor to change my grip. I don't.
Yeah.
I have a strong grip. Okay? I have a weird move. But I went to a golf instructor, top 100 years ago, and he's like, you got your elbow flying a little bit up on top. Okay?
Baseball?
Yeah, I was a baseball player. And so he started having me hit balls with a towel under my right arm. Don't let the towel fall. So I'm not saying this. I'm 6'5", and I eat a lot of chicken wings, so I can create speed, okay? And but I can hit my wedge like 150, 155, smooth. I couldn't hit my 6-iron 150 yards taking this lesson. And he's like, you got to change your grip. We're going to get you on plane. I'm like, so I was watching a PGA Tour event one day, and I'm like, I don't see anybody's hands right here in the backswing. They're wide. As a baseball player, I can't feel where my elbow is, but I can feel where my hands are very easily. Because as a pitcher, nobody ever talked about elbow for me. They talked about if my thumb goes up, my elbow goes down. If my thumb goes down, my elbow goes out. Okay? So if I could do that. So I fired the coach because I felt like instead of listening to me, he was trying to put me into the stock swing. All right, long story about all that. We got to get back to what people want and help solve their problems. All right, there we go.
Write it down. Write it down. Help them with what they want help with.
Yes. And we've lost. Is nobody commenting now? I've pissed everybody off.
No. There's a bunch of people there.
Okay, mine's not updating now. So.
Yeah, sometimes it stops. Mine just updated. Bhrett, could you talk to us? You had, I know in Alabama, you guys were able to go out and play golf, and you got to ride in your own golf cart, and the cups are raised, and social distancing, and 6-foot golf, and all of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I know that some people might be saying, well, you shouldn't be doing that. But my ask is this: you're able to do it. You did it safely. You did it properly. But what was your takeaway from getting out there and doing it?
Damn it. The first takeaway is thank God we can, because what an amazing stress reduction. My group that I normally plays with, I'm on the board of our club in Birmingham. And when we had a shelter in place put in Friday, and we got on a board meeting that night, and we looked at the reviews, and we had our legal counsel look at it. And actually the state of Alabama owns the Robert Trent Jones Trail pretty much. They didn't close. So what we did was we played, and our staff is amazing at Greystone, and I applaud them and our leadership team, our golf professional staff and maintenance staff, brilliant people. Listen, we have, as a club, have taken the social distancing to a T. We don't meet up afterwards. We stay 6 feet apart. So we actually, each of my buddies, we all had our wives come ride with us yesterday to get outside, and that's cool. Actually really pleasurable because they were able to come out and listen to music and relax. But anyway, what I found was I appreciate the game more. But the raised cup was an interesting phenomenon. So we raised the cup about an inch and a half out of every hole to pretty much say, don't touch the damn flag sticks, okay? And that was our rule. Don't touch flag sticks. We removed all the rakes, and okay. And what happened was, almost in our group yesterday, in my foursome, we all played amazing. And I think it was because, the hole, and this is for anybody who's out there listening, the hole is an absence, okay? And it's really hard to putt to an open space that's a vacuum, okay? It's like when we go on a range, when we don't care, it's easy. But we're in competition. If you had a wide open space, you'll hear people.
Almost a little bit like a blind tee shot.
100% exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm aiming at, right?
Yeah.
And by pulling that up, what's happened is it gave people an object to hit to.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, it was almost nonstop dead center cup on putts. And putts were better speed. They were more aggressive. They were more focused in. It was ridiculous, the improvement. And it's something I've always thought about. There was an old study that was done with basketball free throw shooters where they put an LED light on the inside of a rim and they lit it up, and people made significantly more free throws. So the issue was, imagine yourself seeing the light. And I remember seeing an article, and I can't find it, and I hope I'm accurate with this, but Tiger used to say, remember when he didn't miss like a 5-footer for like 27 consecutive years?
Yeah.
Okay. He used to say he putted into and seeing a clown's mouth that his dad used to have in it. It gave him something concrete.
Yeah.
I tell you what, a 6-footer yesterday was easy. I wish I had that mindset. So maybe we should start teaching people to putt with the hole up, because it's a hell of a lot more fun. If you take juniors out, put pool noodles in them, even after this, and have them putt to that. They don't care if the ball goes in or not, but you're going to see things being made a little bit better. I think one of the things that we've got to do is can we take that same aggressiveness to every putt we hit? Rich Hunt, who's a pretty good statistician, I say pretty good, I'm teasing. He and I were looking at this a while back, and there was a theory of an economics paper that was written when Tiger Woods was at his best. And they talked about loss aversion. Tiger Woods is probably the least loss aversion putter on the PGA Tour when he was at his best. Now, interesting, his strategy, maybe you can talk to Fawcett about it, his strategy in final rounds was pretty much about loss preservation. He didn't take on and he didn't pin hunt. He didn't, okay. But putting, so Rich and I went back and looked and said more people make par putts than they make birdie putts on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
Okay? From the same distance, and you can statistically control for it all. So Rich went back and looked and said when people miss par putts, they miss them long. When they miss birdie putts, they miss them short. Now we don't know what it is if they make them. But if they're missing more par putts long, more than likely we're more aggressive. And I know the capture speed, even if the capture speed's 8 inches according to aim point, right? That's still fine. But 3 inches short doesn't do it for us.
Yeah.
So can we use the learning from right now? So if you want to practice putting and gain confidence, put a foam cup in the hole, like 44-ounce Coke cup, put a towel in the hole, and practice from 5 to 10 feet. Put that in the hole when you're teaching people, and they'll start believing more. Putting ultimately comes down to belief, and that's what was so brilliant about yesterday. It was, I felt more confident with my ball striking, I think because I didn't see the putting as, I didn't feel like I had to jam it in there to make putts.
Yeah.
And I played great.
That's awesome. I know this as well, and one thing you haven't mentioned is you were appreciative of being out there.
Oh, big time.
And you knew that no matter what you scored, it was going to be a good day.
Well, when I opened my business 10 years ago, I thought, I'm going to play golf more during the week. And no, none of that. And all week, I have a putting green in my office. I have the chipping green's 1,000 square foot chipping green. I don't ever use it. But since this thing is hit and nobody's in the office but me, and sometimes my wife comes up here, I putt and chip in between appointments. Yeah. And I can't wait to Saturday mornings. And I actually told my wife, I said, we're in the perfect weather right now. It sucks that it's Augusta Monday. This week would have been epic weather at Augusta.
Well, I'm 2 hours away, and I can tell you it is, if any one of us could build a day, our ultimate day, that's what we got here today.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous. And that's the thing is look, we need to social distance, but it doesn't mean we can't be outside. It doesn't mean you can't throw, if your golf courses are open, go throw a go pack on your back and go walk it 9 holes. Go walk around the block. Go appreciate things. Like I tell all my competitors, you should have 15 to 30 minutes a day where you sit back and you just reflect and be thankful and appreciative of what you're doing. Golf coaches should be the same way. 100%.
Yeah. Doc, talk to us a little bit about, and I know this really has helped me in the past week, distraction. Because and sometimes sitting there and, it depends which direction you're going to point your brain. You can point your brain in the wrong direction, and when you're reflecting, you can go, well, I should be doing this, and I should be doing this, and this isn't going to happen, and these bad things are happening. But you can also look in the other direction. But distraction, I find, is really helping me.
I think distraction starts first with acceptance. Okay, so if we close our mind and say, don't think that way, we're going to think that way, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if we realize that the fear, the negative thought, and that was my comment about the news media, is they're winning the bombarding of the psychological game. It's just constant information with no verification. Yeah. And I'm not saying that they're lying. What I'm saying is I know the pain that's going on in Spain and Italy secondhand right now. Yeah. And I can see pictures of it that dramatizes and intensifies my brain. Okay.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly under bombardment. Okay. But if you can learn to sit and just, I'm going to allow thoughts to come and go. I'm not going to judge them. I'm not going to fight them. And more importantly, I'm okay regardless of what I think. If you ever been on an airplane with somebody who's afraid to fly, telling them to calm down doesn't work.
Yes.
Okay. Instead, what you do is say, tell me what you're feeling. And that's accepting, not fighting. It's the same way with getting up on a tee box and having water all down the right, and you got a left or right wind, and you got something left that's a problem. It's like, I see it all. Okay. I mean, literally, one of the things I did yesterday, I got up on a hole that is my bugaboo. Okay. And I said, I don't care if I hit it into the trees or if I hit it in the water, but where do I want to hit it?
Mm.
So that's acceptance, right? I don't care.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hit probably the best drive I hit all day, right? I wish I could do that all the time. But I think to your point, it's like, I like to tell people, you got to learn to sit in it to be able to move through it. Once you learn to sit, it's the same thing I tell my junior players. If the first thing you do after a bad round of golf is you get on the phone with your instructor and you leave the facility and go find the nearest driving range, and you're the first one out of the parking lot, then you taught yourself you can't sit in bad play. Like, there's, I try to tell my players, if you have a bad day, I don't want the people to understand outside your small circle that it was a bad day. I want you to sign as many autographs as you normally do. I want you to deal with it and manage it. And I had a player call me a couple weeks ago in an event, and he called and he had a bad day. And he called and he was just, man, it was a bad day. Okay. And I said, okay, but what changes for tomorrow? See, when we try to push back the negative thoughts, it recruits the mind to find more. It's like going on a website, we see an article that worries us. What do? We try to find an article that counters it, or we try to learn more about it, and we start going down the deep hole. Okay. But if you can go, man, that was a shitty day. I'm not a shitty person. I'm not a bad person. I'm not a bad golfer. I had a bad freaking day. All right. Let me get back to work. Okay.
Yeah.
And let me realize I'm okay. There's a quote by Mel Robbins, who's a brilliant motivational style speaker out of Boston. You've survived every shitty day of your life, and your odds are pretty good tomorrow.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. That really is a good one.
And that's the thing about negative thoughts, right? I mean, I often think back when I was flying into coach camp, it was a high wind day. It was a beautiful day, but it was a high wind day. And our pilot on the approach got wind shear and had to hit it and had to accelerate and go back up and make another circle. And, what did my mind do? It automatically went to, oh, shit, something's up. And then about a minute later, it comes on and tells us what happened. But why did my mind go to immediately to, oh, shit? Well, it's because, one, I'm not in control, and two, it wouldn't go, oh, that's fun. I get to look at the ground again. The mind has to go to protection. So if we tell the mind that thought process is bad, it recruits more of it. Like, you know what? How about just accepting the fact that there's bad shots, there's bad holes, there's bad people, but I'm okay either way. I can deal with it.
Doc, can you talk? We've had a few requests. Could you talk a little bit about yips?
Oh, yeah.
And the mental state and nervous system, and give us your take on that, because I have some thoughts on that myself.
Okay. Here's my thoughts on the yips. I treat the yips like I treat panic attacks. If you've ever had a panic attack, I've had them. They're awful. Okay. So what happens in the yips is more than likely you have a failed technical system. Okay. You've got a technical problem that was fine forever. You may have made a mistake or two, but your body and your mind was able to overcome it until it wasn't. And it created a false alarm. In other words, the fear and embarrassment of making a mistake added into that mechanical change. And then the correction that you put in to try to fix it changes the mind into avoidance and fear. So if you look at panic attacks, what happens is, for the most part, usually in men, let's say, you're sitting at your desk and you're like, oh my God, I've got chest pain. Oh my God. Okay. And your mind races and the adrenaline system in your body kicks on. You go to the emergency room and they say, yeah, your heart's fine. You're having stress. You're like, okay, that's fine. The next day you're sitting there and you feel tightness again. Your mind doesn't go, stress. It goes, shit, that's that heart attack again. And then if you're in public somewhere and it does it again, and then all you want to do is escape the threatening environment.
Mm.
Okay? So now you've created this false alarm system that's misreading all the stuff. And it's creating the same response, but it's not a real alarm. It's really not a heart attack. It's a misinterpretation. All right.
Mm.
So what happens in the yips is, let's use putting. Let's say somebody naturally, takes the club on the outside on the takeaway, right? But forever they putted really good. And then they play a tournament round or they play with their buddies and they miss like 4 or 5 3-footers. And somebody goes, dude, it looks like you're decelling. Mm. So now the correction is, now I'm going to accelerate through it, right? Well, from what I've seen, you're the expert on this, but on blast, everybody decels on a putt. Right?
We want non-accelerated, yeah.
100%, 2 back, 1 forward, right? Or 3-2, okay? But the yip is boom. I have the yips from chipping. Terrible grip, ball in a fricked up position, and shoulders tilted like this, so everything was falling back, all right? Okay, so when I get up over a ball, I didn't want anybody to watch. I wanted everybody to get the hell away. I wanted to chip before people saw it because I wanted to hurry up and get out of the problem.
Yeah.
And I figured it out. I took a lesson, and then I got the Orange Whip wedge trainer, and I was like, I'm going to figure this damn thing out. And I did. And I can pitch and chip with anybody. I'll pitch and chip with my tour players now. I do it weird. I do it different. It doesn't matter. It works. Okay? But what happened was I just wanted to get away from it. So what I tell people is you can't control when that false alarm happens. So you hit it to 3 feet, and all of a sudden it's like, boom. The threat system starts building up. Okay?
Yes.
Well, let's name it Bob. Bob's here today. Bob just showed up. Why the hell's Bob here? I don't know. Bob is here. Bob's telling you to freak out, worry, and not let people watch you. How about you just take a deep breath, pull back. See, when I said the word Bob, you laughed.
Yeah.
Okay? So instead of seeing it personally, let's go, Bob's here. Okay? When Bob shows up, what do I need to do? Let me take a couple deep breaths. Let me lower just a little bit. I'm never going to calm down. But what do I need to do? Well, getting stuck on mechanical mechanisms doesn't really work. But what does work is accepting, not fighting. Then what's my intention? Listen, if you've got the yips as a putter because you think you have bad technique, you can still make putts with bad technique.
Yeah.
It's just repeatable. My technique's not good with the pitching and chipping, but I can get it up and down from anything. When I was playing yesterday, so I was playing with my buddy Mark, who teaches me. He's pretty good. He's like you. He's pretty good with the wedges. I don't know, something about foreigners, but he's from a different part of the world. But he was my partner, and I had a brutal up and down, and he had like 8 feet for birdie, and I'm like, okay, and I hit the nastiest chip I think I've ever hit in my life, but I had stress because I knew he was watching me, because he's my buddy, my instructor. And I just took a step back and said, screw him. I don't care. And I hit this shot that he looked at me and goes, okay, that was sick. And I'm like, yeah, I did that on purpose. I hit my spot. I hit everything. Ball ran up and stopped and spin next to the hole. And I had like a 1-footer. So, which with the cup up, it was easy. So it was good. So, but it was nasty. And instead of fight, but Bob showed up there. Bob showed up because I didn't want to lay sod. But I went, take a deep breath. I backed off. I played the old, sneeze. It's a great little trick. Or, I got something in my eye. Okay. Slow down. Don't be in a hurry to screw up. That's how we move through the yips. But you got to realize Bob shows up sometimes when you don't want him to. Don't get pissed off when Bob shows up. Instead, go, all right, you're here. Take a deep breath. If you have the yips putting from inside 5 feet, listen, all the stuff, you're not going to make the putt anyways. So why don't we just make a good pass at it? In other words, let's separate the need to make. Let's just make a good pass at it. If it goes in, it does. If it missed, nobody. Here's the deal. We think people care. People don't care. They're so self-absorbed in their own world. And, they're so worried about their own thought process. And it's incredible. It's incredible. We started, one of the best things that we did for our yippy putters in our group, we have 15 of us, is we started doing cumulative, we call them whipped creams, cumulative points to the other team with every 3-putt. So it gets worse. You know what's happened to our putting? It got a little worse for a little while. It has gotten so good.
Yeah.
Because we just dealt with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ain't nothing going to be given. I can tell you that. If you don't miss a 1-footer, I'm going to take the points. And somebody's having a bad day and it's their 5th whipped cream, that's 5 dots, man. I'll take that. But we did it because what we found was people were raking back the 5- and 6-footers. Oh, that's good. It's like, it's not good. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No way. Own it.
I always remember there's a great, many people, yourself included, might know of a golfer by the name of Simon Hobday.
Yeah.
And Simon Hobday developed a case of a little twitchy at one point in his career with the putter. Mm-hmm. And he played a tournament in dark glasses, and he changed the color of his mustache, and he started wearing this weird hat. Okay, and so he's playing really well, and guys would ask him, Simon, why are you looking so different? And he was doing well in the tournament, and I think on the Saturday, on the 17th hole, he 3-putted the hole, and he took his hat off, took his glasses off, looked up at the sky, and said, "You've found me." He was trying to hide from the yips. Yeah,
yeah. But you know what? There was a study that was done. Pels may have done it, that showed that people. This is years ago, but people who were putting with the claw grip had a higher make percentage on the PGA Tour.
Okay.
There was some, but most of the people who went to the claw, why? Mark Calcavecchia, because he had problems.
I use the claw for that reason.
Me too.
Yeah.
100%. And what it is I think it's so screwed up feeling that it works. Mm. Because at that point you're like, I don't really care. It works. I found a solution. It's like my chipping. I mean, I know you're a wedge guru. I play the ball just off my right foot, a little bit in front, and I drop my left foot way back.
Yeah.
And I put about that much space between the club and the ball. I can flop it. It works.
Cool. Yeah.
I mean, cool. Here's the thing. I found I'm not a tour player. I can play. I play with my tour players. Mm. I'm not trying to make money playing. I don't try to make money teaching mechanics. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, like the way I do it. It's all about function, man. Let's go.
You just wanted to work. Yeah.
100%. I want to enjoy the game. The yips kept me from enjoying the game.
For sure.
And there are some things that we can do in the yips. Listen, we know that tension is not good. So if you get the yips, take a step back and squeeze your hand in the putter on your inhale and then relax it out. You'll never get that tight again. Quiet eye technique is brilliant. Put a little dot on the ball and just watch yourself go through the thing. The ball. There's all kinds of things. And I can help. If somebody wants to send me a direct message, I'll help them.
Doc, a little thing that I found actually helps people, because oftentimes with my students, I find that the smaller the chip shot, the smaller the swing, the more yippy those who struggle in that category, those chipping yips. The smaller the stroke, the more prone they are to get a little flinchy.
Yeah.
And a cool little thing that I discovered was I would take a Sharpie and draw a dot on the club face. And for these small swings, I would encourage people to actually set up to the ball, watch the dot.
Oh, nice.
Back and through. And it really changed how they perceived the shot, and it took away that anticipation of impact.
Yeah.
And that seemed to work quite nicely for those golfers that struggled with those little chips.
Yeah. It's because even though we'll say, it's giving them an intention, not a prevention. Yeah. Most anxiety in our life intensifies under prevention. The more we try to suppress it, the more the body comes in harder, okay? The adrenaline, the fight or flight. But if I have intention, okay, then I'm okay. So if you think about the famous cases of yips in like baseball, I know you know baseball, second baseman, Chuck Knobloch, Steve Sachs, Mackie Sasser, from a catcher standpoint. And there's a movie, Major League 2, where the kid, has to envision himself seeing Playboy centerfolds in order to throw the ball, because it maintained the brain. It's a joke, but it actually works. Okay. Yeah. Chuck Knobloch, what happened is the yips never come from a guy throwing from deep left field, because the precision that you can be off.
Yeah.
The guy's going to move. But at second, everyone's like, oh my God, I mean, even an idiot can make that throw. Yeah, everybody can make the throw. What's wrong with you? The catcher, you overthrow the pitcher kind of looks at you. Like, I used to hate it when a catcher would overthrow me or bounce it to me. But it's not an easy throw. You know, the pitcher thrown over to first base. Now you see a pitcher, they all run to first base.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's such an easy one. Well, it's like a 2-footer. It's such an easy one, we miss it. That's why I always tell players, look, don't take for granted what the players on the PGA Tour do every day.
Yeah.
They make those putts all the damn time. Those are not easy. We take them for granted, like, oh, it's such an easy little putt. No.
Yeah, that's spot on. I love that, Doc. Doc, another question for you. If we were to tap into somebody on social media that you like, I think I know who you're going to say, but I'm going to ask anyway. Somebody we could follow for perspective, for wisdom, for sound guidance. Who would you recommend? And you can give us more than one if you got more than one.
Yeah, I'll give you 3 people right now who I think are doing a brilliant job. One is obviously Ryan Holiday. I think his stuff and sign up for his daily Stoic stuff is brilliant. I think there's a guy that very few people know of, but he's probably the finest psychologist I've ever worked with and interacted with in the field of anxiety. And his name is Dr. Kevin Chapman, Chapman. He's based in Louisville. I've done 2 podcasts with him. He is absolutely brilliant communicator. Has a way of really helping people. His specialty is anxiety. I love Kevin. I think he is so eloquent. And man, he just does a great job. And I think John Gordon does a great job out of Jacksonville, Florida.
Cool.
John is a great writer. I will tell you this: if people who are listening to this, and I'll let me write it in this real quick. But if you go to the Catalyst School, is something that we're doing right now, where we're taking great stories and information, and we're reposting it that we've done. And when I come to Coaches Camp, if we in December, I'll get you on it. We're gonna sit down and actually do it. But if you go there and you sign up,
cool.
There's all kinds of great videos, me with my former coach, and things that we've taken over the years and put a lot of a lot of content to help us be better catalysts in our world. And the reason I'm saying that is, listen, I believe that us with 7.8 billion, I think how many we have in this world? 57 billion. What's our world population?
A lot.
Let me look it up. Okay. 7.8 billion people. Okay. We have the impact. There was a great video of Ed Reed, the Hall of Fame defensive back, who just went, about him talking about sitting in the locker room for the Baltimore Ravens during the Super Bowl run, and guys are taking their stuff off and they're throwing it and they're missing the garbage can and it's dirty, and he goes, guys, I don't understand something. We have volunteer firemen that clean our locker room, and you don't have the respect to clean your stuff.
Mm.
I try to get all my players to make sure that they clean their room in the hotels, so that when the maids come in, all the towels are on the counter, to make sure that they speak, all my college players to speak to the maids, because when you go to a Ritz-Carlton, who really makes that? It's the quality of the care that's being done. It's the quality of the, if you throw all your crap all over the room, you're showing yourself that you're bigger than another human being.
Yeah.
Walk by the cleaning staff and say, thank you for making my stay fantastic. Thank you. When I was in the pharmaceutical industry, we'd go to a city or something, and they'd always leave a note on our doors that said, and I was in the medical side, and they would say, listen, don't forget that many times some of the immigrants that we have in the United States were physicians in their home countries, and they're working as house cleaning staff here.
Yeah.
I used to work with a guy in Bristol Myers Squibb. Bristol, yeah. And he was a physician. He was an OBGYN in Cuba that got out of Cuba because he was getting in trouble because he was sending antibiotics into the prison to the doctors that the Cuban government was putting in the hospital because they felt that they were against the government. They were treating the illnesses in the hospital, okay? And he got noticed that the federal government knew that he was smuggling antibiotics into the hospital. So a travel agent said, hey, there's a convention in Moscow, and I'm going to book a flight through Spain. And he said, I don't understand. The guy said, I'm telling you, you go to Spain. And he says, well, I can't afford it. He said, just use your per diem if you get it. And he got off the plane in Spain and went right to the Spanish embassy and claimed asylum because he was being monitored.
Yeah.
And he got to Miami and worked as a car washer for 4 years at his uncle's car wash. He's an OBGYN and expert. Brilliant. And he raised enough money, and he's like, I don't want to be a physician in the United States because I don't want to go back to residency again.
Mm.
So he worked in the medical research side of our company and he was brilliant. And he got his family over. The only one that didn't want to come to the United States was his mom. So still, when he calls his mom today, up until a couple of years ago, he could still hear the government listening in. And he would say, I would get letters from our government that was specific to the conversations that I had with my mother on the phone.
Wow.
But what he said is, people would come and they would throw stuff at me. They would leave their guard. And he said, it was such a humbling experience to remember. I used to be a healer. I was a physician. Now I'm washing cars. But he said it quickly taught me, okay, the impact we make on people is not our profession. The impact that we make on people is the impact we make on people.
Yeah, yeah. Doc, you are the best. I really look up to you. I send all my students.
Yes, you do. Thank you.
You are the man. I appreciate you doing what you can to help us out in these different times, giving us perspective and just keeping things in line. It's cool to chat and appreciate everything, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thank you. Hey, I want to challenge the golf coaches on here. Right? If you don't want to reach out to your coaches or your players or your teacher, the people, I want you to write 5 letters this week. I want you to write a letter to somebody who's impacted you. Not an email, not a text message, a handwritten letter that somebody has impacted you, that has guided your career. I want you to write a letter to a student that has made you a better teacher, even if it's a student that fired you, that made you a better student. And then I want you to write something to your families, people in your family, to tell them that you love them and to thank them for the impact they've made on your life.
That's awesome. Great attitude of gratitude.
Absolutely. Thank you for everything you're doing, and keep the community strong, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Stay safe.
You got it. Take care. Bye.